Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith along with
Yvonne Ozerets.
And on the line we have Davey Anderson and Andy Fitzell. So we got 3 dumb coaches and 1 computer scientist. It's Happy New Year. This podcast is coming out January 1, 2025. So let's go back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're going to go through New Year's resolutions. But before we do that, any announcements? Like Anderson's no longer at the Brookhaven Tennis Club. He's at the Hair Unlimited.
Took over the Minot Indoor Tennis Club. I'm going to make an impact up there.
So our listeners, they need to tell them, where is Minot?
It's about 60 minutes south of the Canadian border, right above Saskatchewan, or right below Saskatchewan.
Whoa.
Winnipeg's not too far. I know your brother Steve coached or was the GM right at Winnipeg for the Jets.
Yeah, he had a long career. He was a scout, minor league coach. He very, very short was covered the NHL team as a coach, but I'd say most of his time there, 14, 15 years, he was a GM. Winnipeg, Winnie the Pooh. So let's go with Christmas movies. Home Alone.
Die Hard.
Home Alone was my first. Yeah.
Die Hard, that's great. I remember Brandon Flanagan. We were having people name the best Christmas movies, and Flanagan goes, Die Hard. Die Hard 1. I was doing a clinic in Salt Lake City, and the guy hosting me, the late Tommy Fye, he goes, my girlfriend's upset with me. I gotta go. And he, at that time, my kids were really young, and I think I was watching Sesame Street 24/7. So I'm at his place, and he goes, "Hey, I gotta go. Gotta go put out some fires with my girlfriend." He goes, "Watch this movie." He couldn't believe I had never seen it, but he put in Die Hard. But yeah, Flanagan, we were naming Christmas movies, and he goes, Die Hard, and it really is. It's a Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tree in it. Anybody else on Christmas movies? Home Alone.
Home Alone's great.
Oh gosh, Christmas Vacation, Elf, Christmas Story, classic. It usually plays 24/7 on TNT or something like that.
Yeah, it does. I don't think I've ever watched that in its entirety.
No way.
Christmas Story.
Wow. Oh, you got it. Classic.
Yeah, I've caught bits and pieces. Home Alone and Elf.
Home Alone.
Those are Home Alone and Elf. We just watched Home Alone this weekend.
Oh, you got to watch that.
Yeah, it's good.
It's Home Alone 1. I mean, I can't really comment on the others, but no, Home Alone 1. Wow. I was in New York City for the weekend, and my oldest son, we try to stay away from politics on our podcast, tennis. But he liked Donald Trump. Told me I had to go to Trump's Towers. So I had my photo taken. Actually, our super duper Rami baby, he was my GPS. He was my host for when I wasn't connected to this wedding. But yeah. Tell us about the new movie, Red One.
It's starring Dwayne Johnson. Got paid the most any actor's ever played, $50 million. Not too bad.
How long does it take to make a movie, though?
Quite a while. Well, Andy would be, I think, the more expert on this, but I'd say quite a while.
What do you think, Andy?
Well, it takes a while to travel to the North Pole, so yeah. No, who knows? Sometimes they can get those done quickly, and sometimes it takes a couple years. Post-production, all that.
Yeah, or in the case of the second Avatar, when James Cameron decided to film the next 3, I think it took, upwards of 10, 12 years or 13, 14, something like that.
That's wild.
Well, you could talk, we're thinking about reindeer. We could talk about Yvonne's driving skills. I'm calling him Joe Louis. He's been hit 3 times now. He got rear-ended by a lady my age. And then he got hit by a deer. And then he swerved, missing a deer, and hit a
guardrail on the side of the freeway.
So I'm calling him Crash.
He's a horse Sienna.
Up on the mountain today, Wintergreen, Virginia. It is so foggy. You can't see your hand in front of your nose.
Wow. Do you guys have snow there yet?
Well, why don't you give that report, Yvonne?
We did have a little bit of snowfall, not too much, but it dropped far enough that they just are pumping the snow. Here in Wintergreen, they don't get much snow, so they have the most high-end snow-making machines, and just 24/7. When the temperature is 32 and below, they just all day long.
How's it go?
Yeah.
10 inches of water for 1 inch of snow. But, for me, people know I'm not a businessman, but I think of the Shark Tank when I think of this business up here at Wintergreen. Ding, 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 ding. Where, say, Mark Cuban, the person presenting says, well, I need more admin help. Ding, 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 ding. Mm-hmm. Do it yourself. Get the paper clips, the licking the envelopes. But, I mean, it's really, like, say, a 3-month season. And it's, Shark Tank, we want to generate 12 months of revenue day in and day out. And then Mother Nature, I mean, it was cold here and it looked very Christmassy. They're pumping out the white snow, and then like 4 days later, not good. Mm-hmm. But they really have it down to science. When it really got cold, so they have, I don't know, I'm going to guess 4 to 6 inch base. It's a sheet of ice. I mean,
yeah.
Scott Reed is a great guy. He's brought his kids up here 3 different times. He's a harbor pilot in Houston. I'm always telling him, I could do your job. I grew up on a lake. I could do your job. Just got to make sure the boats don't hit each other. And then he goes, yes, but the boats have to go to a certain space. So he's so funny. He comes up here and he goes, my kids may ski here, but I've never skied here. I'm not going down that sheet of ice.
Yeah, pure ice. Yeah.
But they get 4,000 people up here on a weekend. Other than that, it's a ghost town. Weekend skiers, they certainly pay a lot of money to ski. But if you're going to go on vacation, you don't go to Wintergreen, Virginia. You got to go to Vermont or Utah, Colorado.
Actually, on the topic of New Year's movies, might be of interest to you guys. A Russian tradition, at least in my family, and I know in a lot of people's families, for New Year's we watch one movie. Has 2 parts, but it's one movie every New Year's. Every New Year's. It's just a tradition. And the movie is called «Ирония судьбы и с легким паром».
Say it again.
«Ирония судьбы и с легким паром». It means
one of my favorites.
I think it translates to the irony of fate. And it's really a satire on how St. Petersburg and Moscow were built so similarly. I mean, literally the numbers of the apartments on the streets were all named the same, and everything was the same. And it's a love story between how one, this main character got drunk with his friends one night in the sauna, and then one of the friends had to go in a plane back to St. Petersburg. The main character got swapped in for him because they were all drunk, and then he met this girl in his own apartment, but in another city. And the story unfolds from there. And so we watch it every year. I mean,
What's the English translation?
An irony of fate. They were supposed to make an English version. They might have even come out with it, but I mean, it's can't be disrespectful to the new one. I don't think I'm ever going to watch the English version.
Are there English subtitles?
I'm sure you can find it. Yeah. It's very
every
year
good. Since you were a little kid.
Every year. I mean, I don't remember ever missing once. Yeah.
Wow.
I think of the movie The Wizard of Oz. I grew up in upstate New York, and the next town over, Chittenango. The gentleman who wrote The Wizard of Oz, he's from Chittenango. They've got yellow sidewalks. The ice cream parlor in town is called Oz Cream. They have a museum. But that movie just continues to reappear in different ways. Amazing story. Yeah, this guy Ivan, his parents, standing ovation. He has to sit at a table. He won't sit in front of a TV. His buddy that he knows from Southern Cal, Mickelson's, could be playing, and Ivan's going to sit at the table. Amazing. But let me get your opinion, guys. I mean, he went home last year to see his family. I think I should go this year to California. Let him stay up here. Actually, that's an update on Wintergreen. We were going to travel and do some things off the mountain, which we're going to start to do either the end of January, 1st of February. This is an amazing place, but it's really a great place for us in the summertime, spring, because it's not hot. You play tennis all day. It's like in the 70s here, where other places it's over 100. But yeah, the update is yeah, we stayed to help them if they wanted to, put a team in place. But, we were always going to be off to the side doing our thing. But Wintergreen, so I'm staying. I've got all these people coming in and he's leaving. I think he should leave. What do you guys think?
Should have went on honeymoon with Connor.
When you say his life has been a honeymoon?
Probably, yeah. And it probably will continue. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a lucky man. It was the wedding was a tribute to his bride's father. Unfortunately, he passed away, so I wasn't there to, how's it go? Walk her down the aisle. But yeah, one married, and now Mikhail, he's getting married in 2 months. So, used to always tell the late Andy Brandy, he married Nancy, but he beat Jimmy Connors twice in the 12s. And I used to say, best match he ever won, Andy, was Nancy. With
we're going to be calling you Grandpa soon.
Yeah, I tell you what, you got 2 hips, 2 knees, and two ankles. But Connor, who had his hip replaced, actually, I was communicating with my sisters who had both hips replaced. Is my hips going? Old age, baby, hit 70. One of my other sisters used to always say, you can tell every 10 years. You hit 50, hit 60. I was working with a coach today, and I was telling him how to, he's not the highest level player. And I said, well, this is what you need to do. I mean, if you go to a new environment, everybody wants, if you're 30 or under, they want to know how well you play. And, but I was telling him, I said, I remember I would always want to play a junior before I coached him. Then it got to the point where I would play him one set. Then it got to the point, well, I got to just put him through skills tests and get somebody else to play him. Especially teenage boys. The best thing to do is beat them first and say, okay, film them. But those days are gone.
Some humble pie.
Humble pie with Davey's a grandfather.
Yeah. Just got done reading a book to the boys before I got online here.
I love the joke. Why do grandparents and grandkids get along so well? They have a common enemy.
Mm-hmm.
With
I'm the devil here.
Do you have two grandsons though? They're making them athletes, throwing some balls to them.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of just having a lot of fun. We play football in the backyard, shoot hoops, play freeze tag with socks rolled up, just anything. I mean, there's no limit, right? We just name a game and create a name, and I mean, we have a million different games that we've made up that usually involve hurting me at the end of the day. But yeah, it's a blast.
You know what Vic Braden used to say about, and how old are your grandkids? Again?
They'll be 5 and 7 pretty soon, yeah.
Years ago, people would have a red wagon their kids could play with, but typically the mom would take the wagon to the corner grocery store and bring the groceries back. And Vic used to say, have you ever watched 2 5, 6-year-olds coming around the corner on a sidewalk on one of those red wagons? You go, they're fearless. Mm. They're falling, they're tumbling, and it's just not the same. Kids don't play outside these electronic toys. Outside the USTA, Andy was there helping day in and day out with a beautiful wife. And remember, Andy, we had like 12 bicycles, and there's some kids. I understand if you grow up in the city and sometimes it's circumstantial, but we had kids who did not know how to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great memories of that because I think it was Elia's idea, which I thought was pretty awesome, was to remove the seats so that, you couldn't, I mean, what a great idea, actually. So you couldn't just sit down and take it easy. You had to stand up and really pedal.
I talked to him today. He's coming up here in January with a few kids and New Year's resolutions. He's telling the parents they need to come. He goes, well, you need to go more than, he's this like this total package coach. And Oh, it's the times. I forgot all about that. I'd like to think I have total recall, but I forgot. That's great. Took the seats off. And
so you could sit down, but
then
you wasn't very comfortable.
you and your wife did so much work, and you had these windows, beautiful place, and you two are a lot of times looking out, working on the computer screen. Your wife's doing the business side, and you're doing the educational side with videos and stuff.
I was just taking a nap.
But the kids, they get the other side of the house.
Yeah.
And they get off their bike and sit out.
Yeah. It was funny. We would just film because they would be going, they'd be going full speed running or whatnot, and then they would get to where, you were hidden basically, and then they would just stop and walk or really coast. And so we had a good time.
No, there's
getting some videos of that, or just watching.
I don't want to mention any names. Alex Fuchs, who I don't think is last. I think last year was his walk-on year. So this year is crunch time. See if you can sneak in there and place them in the lineup. Definitely should be able to serve and volleying skills. Should be able to play some doubles. But
he won a sectional in doubles
in cup with Ohio State.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Some kind of sectional tournament. ITF. He won the dubs.
Actually, Ty was sending me many text messages about Connor's wedding, and so I asked about Alex, and says he should become an All-American. But I think of Alex because I remember we had him run 10 miles, and certainly we had people jogging. There's always somebody with him. And then we had this kid who went back and forth to Chicago, and he was going to go home. And every time he came back, his mile time, his beep test, his spider, everything. Not the spider. This be the spider. Yeah. So anything we time, and his times would just totally drop off. So I told him, I said, when you come back, is that if any of your times are down, beep test, mile time, spider, and those are a little bit different than just saying doing the 40 or the 100. I said, everybody's going to run 10 miles. So anyway, the kids, it was great. They were texting him twice a day. They were making him he was sending film of himself running. And I just remember Alex Fuchs, he did not want to run, which is not conducive to be a tennis player, but it is a character builder to say, I'm just not stopping.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Yep. New Year's resolutions. Yvonne, why don't you get on your phone there? Look up the word new.
New.
New. I think the one thing is old. I think a New Year's resolution, just flip it. Go, come on, you can't do the same old. SSDD. We don't swear on the podcast, but same blank, different day.
Same stuff, different day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. New, not existing before, made, introduced, or discovered recently, or now for the first time.
You need to go over that a little bit slower. Dave Anderson didn't go through the high performance program.
Not existing before.
Are we done talking about? Are we done talking about Red One? I was still trying to figure out. I was still trying to figure out how The Rock made $50 million.
I heard Coco Gauff made that $50 million last year. Vic Braden used to say, you can only eat so many steaks. What are you going to do with $50 million? So
there you go. So it should be a lesson to everybody. You can collapse on your serve and still make 50 mil.
The forehand suspect. So we got new. I think we can come back and look up old. That's the same old boring story.
Oh, we just see a picture of Steve Smith.
There you go, 70.
Got him.
10 more years. Let's knock on wood, baby. I could just go 10 more years. We're gonna
go for 30.
Yeah, that's what I used to tell my mother. She would turn 60, and I go 40 to go, 61, 39 to go. She made it to 91. So let's go with looking up. This is how anybody who's listening is in grade school. You want to get a good grade with your English teacher. Just at least know the definition of what you're defining. New Year's resolutions. Or what do we got, Yvonne? Resolutions.
Resolution, a firm decision to do or not to do something.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Anderson should do the high performance in the new year. What do you think, Andy?
You can use the latter part of Yvonne to not do something. Yeah.
Well, it would just be nice to be on the same page if you did, you know. And I think it would take this. I would think it would take the podcast to another level if you did, you know.
Well, I go back to an earlier quote by Mark Twain on never get into an argument with an idiot. They've got more experience and they'll drag you down to their level.
That's good.
Touche.
I think that if Anderson did the high performance, he would be able to interpret the movie Red One to a higher level.
It was a great movie, and I had tons of popcorn and Skittles and a large Dr. Pepper. It was awesome.
Oh man, I heard Skittles. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I heard Skittles was actually the worst food you can eat, like in the world.
It is, because I washed it down with Mountain Dew too, so that nullified the red. It has that red dye, or that color dye, yeah. But they're good.
That reminds me of my car hop days. Yeah, I got some very good advice when I, almost 20. I was 19 years old. So, okay, I'm not going to make it to the NHL, and got this idea that I could pursue a tennis career in Boca Raton, Florida. There's a 5-star hotel. And, I went right to the top, was interviewed, and I was a busboy at the top of the tower, the most famous restaurant in Boca. I remember waiting on Billy Graham. But being a car hop, chasing cars down, and these guys would be so out of shape, but the faster you could run, the more money you could make. And there was this talking about Skittles. These guys would eat so much junk food. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. Running for cars. I used to be at a party and people would say, well, I'm a CPA. And I hear that, and I would say, I'm a PLA. And almost no one would ever ask me, well, what's a PLA? I remember one time I remember saying, what's a PLA? I get parking lot attendant. So what about year?
The definition of year?
Increment of time. What do we got? 365 days.
Let's see.
One trip around the sun.
Yeah.
The definition of year is the time taken by the Earth to make one revolution around the sun.
God, Andy, that's good.
My mom and dad raised no dummy.
Amazing.
That dug a rep.
Amazing. With
did you learn that in the high performance cover?
Hey, you just have to find out.
There's many YouTube clips on the 10 commandments of the New Year's resolution. I'll read off one very quickly. Make it personal, simplify, be realistic, go deeper. Think evolution, not revolution. Start when you are ready. I don't quite get that one. New Year's resolution, I would think you start January 1. Be open. This had to be written from someone from California.
Oh, yeah.
Find your flow.
Oh, yeah.
Connect and celebrate.
Find your flow?
Find your flow.
Find your flow.
Yeah, it's that surfing lingo. I think there was also a little bit of a contradiction to them. You said simplify, and then the next one says go deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Here's another one. Better budget, eat right, read more, drink less. This wasn't written by an Irishman. Own a plant. Drink more water, get more sleep, exercise more.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good.
That's pretty good. I'll read that again fast. There's that book, Be Great. Better budget.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
This could be on the quiz. Better budget, eat right, read more, drink less, own a plant, drink more water, get more sleep, execute more. I know one thing that I could do, you guys can chime in, is I could drink more water. How about you guys? Anderson, you don't drink water, do you?
Yeah, I do now. But I'll go through periods where I try to take in a gallon a day, but then I'll fall off it. It's like anything else. It's habit. You got to own the plan, like that says, but you can't drink enough of it, it seems.
Mountain Dew is so much better.
It is. I wish I never would have quit. That's my New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is to quit making dumb decisions like that. Get that done.
Just live a little.
The golfer John Daly,
Mm-hmm.
you know what he said about Alcoholics Anonymous? He goes, "No, that's for quitters." He was at one time eating those M&Ms, the peanuts, the one that comes in the yellow packet, 300 a day.
Individual or
individual?
Okay.
You go to the golf course and just give me a box of those. Put it on the back of the wagon. Then he'd come around the 9 and he'd go into the pro shop. Say, I need another box of those. The famous story about him that I didn't know this, and my brother Pat, who actually won the NCAA driving title, he was a very good golfer. And he found the 19th hole, but he married a gal, and her sister Pat Lindsay was a pro golfer. And my parents retired at Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'd been around golf my whole life. At caddied, and everybody played. I never really played. My grandfather called it cow pasture pool. So, I go to this pro tournament. It was every year because I would go up north and teach in the New England area. Then I'd go back to Florida, and so I stopped at my parents' place in North Carolina, and there was a pro tournament. And they started hitting at the driving range. Then as soon as they were done, they'd go to the driving range. So John Daly, he's not going to the driving range. He's in the bar, and Tiger Woods, in the prime of his career, walks by, and Daly says, "Hey, Tiger, why don't you just give it up and come over here and drink some beers with me?" And Tiger looks at him, great story, and he says, "If I had your talent, I would." And, just with the first one was by Jenny Hadfield. Have to give credit. Find Your Flow, Go Deeper. And then the last one was author unknown. But how about you guys? Have you read the book Atomic Habit?
Yeah, read that one.
James Clear. Supposed to put the book you're reading just by your pillow, and you at least have to read one page a day. But his thing is that it's what type of person. Just, not to be, I guess, too from Southern California to loosey-goosey, but how's it go? The United States on a southwestern...
Don't be jealous, man. Come on.
United States on a southwestern slope and everything loose rolls to California. But, he says it's all, habit, system, be proactive, be grateful, be a reflective learner, and just want to get better, and whatever you're trying to improve, it's willpower. But in the end, he said it's the type of person that you want to be. Do you want to be fit?
Yeah.
Do you want to be on time? It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a lifestyle.
All right, so Yvonne,
did any of you three have any resolutions from this last year, 2024, that you've held on to, that you've kept, that you've improved upon?
That's a great question.
I know.
I don't really do New Year's resolutions. I should, though. It's Yeah,
I mean, I can't think of any offhand either that I embarked upon and failed. I did stop shaving my legs, so that was a biggie. But other than that,
be faster in the swimming pool. Why were you doing that?
No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. I'm at that age where you don't have hair on your leg.
With
it all wears off.
I don't have hair on my head, let alone my legs. Yeah, 2024. To go back, the fitness clubs, they really sell all sorts of memberships. And then by the end of the month, I mean, I read one thing is that a lot of times only 6% are still training 3 months after they join. They put their money down. I'm going to go. I think it's very difficult to work out at home. like to me, I like to go to like Andy, you were up here and we went to the spa, nice setup. We brought a gym. It's adjacent to the courts. It's got quite a bit. I mean, you really could have a great workout, but it's hard for me to do to watch kids hit balls and get on a treadmill. I mean, I got to get off the treadmill, and it's hard for me to watch them play and not go, hey,
I actually think for most people it's the opposite. It's the first step out the door to actually get to the gym, because once they're at their gym, they think it's, right. It's not so bad. But putting on those shoes, getting yourself ready, getting there. So, yeah.
Well, I know one thing at the spa, you and Andy, Andy and I spoke about it, is these young people, they'll sit on a machine. That's one thing about, younger athlete, you're going to use free weights, which is better. Testing your balance as you lift weights. But they just sit at the machine. They're on their phone, and it's like, you've been sitting there. Seriously, you've been sitting there for 10 minutes. That's a bit of a problem.
I think with resolutions, just, if you're going to do them, you've got to know yourself. First of all, you've got to identify areas for improvement. So either you've got to spend some time in self-reflection, or you've got to get some help from somebody else that, whether it's coaching, if we're talking tennis, okay, where can I improve? And then like Yvonne would just say, sometimes just getting out the front door is a challenge. So just to start small, whatever it is, atomic habits, just start some kind of habit. It's like, okay, if I'm going to improve my strength, I'm just going to do 5 push-ups a day. And then, that'll turn into 10, maybe 20. But yeah, so identify the areas you need to improve, whether it's hit, run, compete, recover, and then just start small. Try to build off of small habits and go from there.
Yeah, I wrote that. Make small gains, baby steps. I wrote down a few notes and researching some thoughts on resolutions. The coach we were helping today, he asked about the podcast, what the topic was, and so there are a few juniors in the room. I said, "Well, this is Yvonne's New Year's resolution, because he doesn't eat chocolate. He's going to go all of next year, 2025. It's a safe bet. He won't have a piece of candy. So this year, he's not even going to look at candy. So when he sees a piece of candy, he's going to cover his eyes. I mean, he's like Andy's wife. Andy's got, for our listeners, she's got super willpower. I think you could tell her, okay, get your phone out, Leo, and how many days since you had a piece of chocolate? She'll go, 4,206.
Yeah, that reminds me.
She's just German.
That reminds me. We have, we're so fortunate to be able to meet so many amazing families that come through here with their kids that want to just get better, have their kids get better at the game, and we help them out. And we were a few of these families were here through Thanksgiving, sitting around a table, and we just got to talking about nutrition and such. And I was just talking about, my story with nutrition and why I do what I do and how it helps me and why. And then their question, their real disbelief was, how do you do it? Like, how do you make the decision to not eat certain things? Well, one, it's easy to say, it's easier up on this mountain because I control really what I get at the store. I control what I make for food because I make food for everybody. And then I get to control basically what's on my plate. However, it's really about, and that's where New Year's resolutions never were a big part of my life. And I think they're kind of a flawed way of looking at making changes, because a New Year's resolution for most people is they remain the same person, but they want something to change. And people have to realize the habits they have now, the current situation that they're in, is because of the person that they are. So if you really want to make change, you have to change who you are. And that's a mental rewiring that it has nothing to do with what type of season it is or what day of the year it is. It's, okay, for example, here's another idea. Here's another example with me besides two. I'll give you two. So with the, I talked about this before on the Jody Johnson podcast. I got my blood type done, or blood tested, biomarkers. And I got recommended this diet, paleo diet, and I said, well, why not, And pretty strict, can't have gluten, can't have dairy, added sugars, preservatives. Sounds nice. Okay, let me just do it. And every time I'm faced with a decision, okay, there's a, chocolate chip cookie. I like chocolate chip cookies. Would I like one? Yes. But you have to face yourself in that moment of decision and say, I am not somebody who eats, chocolate chip cookies anymore. And boom, conversation done. You don't have a conversation yourself. You don't have a discussion. It's just, that's not who I am. Another example is flossing. For the longest time, like most people are guilty of, you're told every time you go to the dentist, floss, floss, floss. And nobody flosses, and it doesn't take much longer than, brushing your teeth. It's not too hard, but for some reason, it's very rare that people actually floss. And a few years ago, I told myself, why? Like, I do the same. Like, why don't I floss? And I made the decision very similar, say, okay, no, now I am a person. I just told myself I am a person now who flosses. And if you guys, if you want to try it works. You have to put some commitment into it. But if you convince yourself, like, that's just who I am now, your brain, like, there's a little switch, a little flip. Okay, well, if I'm that kind of person, I guess I should be flossing. And it's less of a choice to make it more of a necessity because that's who you are. So this is just some information there about what I think of New Year's resolutions.
That reminds me of James Clear in Atomic Habits is, what type of person are you? And ask yourself that, what type of person are you? And I'm the type of person who can push away chocolate chip cookies, which I think is more difficult. I think it's more difficult to push away chocolate chip cookies than it is to go, say, run 5 miles. Actually, I had a birthday not too long ago. I tease and tell people, yeah, I was born the day after Thanksgiving, and that's why we celebrate Thanksgiving. And most people come back right away and go, no, that's why we eat turkey. So Andy and I were here, and this nice gentleman, he finds on the mountain a place to buy a box of chocolate chip cookies. And it was just circumstantial. I think he had it planned where, okay, we'd all get together and he'd give every kid a couple of chocolate chip cookies, which we would have done. But the way it worked out is Andy and I are walking out the door. Oh, thank you very much.
Crushed those bad boys.
thank you very much. And that's with Yvonne
Smith. I mean, come on. We were up at 6, 30 degrees outside, walking 4 miles every morning. We were putting in the work. We deserve those cookies.
Right. I was going to say, as Yvonne goes down the mountain, and there's no junk food. He's he'll buy whatever people ask, but I guess up to a point. But even like today, there's a girl eating one of those chocolate chip. What's it called? Power bar,
Cliff Bar.
And I go, where did you get that? She's like, my mom sent them to me, or my mom, my mom packed them in my bag. Because Yvonne's not bringing those candy bars up the hill. But Yvonne said we met a lot of great parents, and I just think of so many stories. His one kid, bright kid, he's trying to get into MIT and he hits the ball pretty well. And I've known him for a long time. So the mom says, Steve, my son, he has a problem. I go, what is it? He goes, he eats too much ice cream. And I go, where does he get the ice cream? She goes, I buy the ice cream. but actually, I think that's when you're really at a real high level, like Yvonne is higher than Andy than myself. And Anderson, I put Anderson with us. I think he would have had one of those chocolate chip cookies. What do you think?
Hey, guys, sorry to interrupt. I'll be right back. I have to get the pizza delivery guy.
Give him a good tip. No, but I think it really, what Yvonne was saying too, is that it comes down also to what's most important to you in life, but then also how strong your why is, right? Why you're doing something. So, most people will make those big changes after something, they hit rock bottom or something bad happens. For example, if somebody's really, really overweight and they keep talking about, I want to lose weight, but then they have a heart attack and survive. Then all of a sudden they go, oh, okay, I better take this serious now. Or, talking about the dentist, if you don't floss, all of a sudden you get a root canal or you have all these cavities and they go, oh, okay, I'll start flossing. So obviously, if you can make those decisions before the bad stuff happens, that helps. So you have to have a strong reason why you're doing something to make those habits or or lifestyle decisions stick,
In years gone by where it was so sad that so many people smoke cigarettes, but when women would become impregnated, they would stop, So
yeah. Right.
With
the next day, like cold turkey, boom.
Yeah, no questions asked. I think Anderson did. Did he go to get the pizza?
I thought that was a joke.
No.
Oh, you're there. Okay. With that was a great line in the movie Mighty Ducks, where they say the body's made of 98%. The kid yells, "Pizza." Here's something. The Romans. Is it Janus, the god of new beginnings and transitions? And what I just tried to jot down a few notes. Is learn from the past, and then ask yourself, where do you want to go? I ask people all the time, and you think, what feels better? To be really fit or to have that candy bar? And long term, it feels much better to be really fit. But short term, it's like, I'll take that candy bar. Mm-hmm. They're selling those impulse items at the grocery store. Just have one. I think we could get into talking about juniors and such. But here's something else I jotted down is procrastination. I say it all the time. Don't put the pro in procrastination. And then, to start small and build up with, to be with the super intern up in New York City. Andy and I were doing a camp in Germany many years ago, and Rami Baby was helping us out. And that's where Andy, people know, met his wife. And we were working with a Russian player, and the Russian family, they did yoga. And I was just asked, hey, have this kid do 10 minutes a day. And, but, Ram is that guy. He's all these years later, he's still doing, segments of that yoga. He's going to the gym and this and that. But, the first thing is to hit the floor. I think also, when you get to be a coach, if it's a completely different fitness level, you're competing to stay fit, stay healthy. It's not like you're competing to win. So that's where these kids that have competitive goals. If you're really fit, it's nothing to just go run 3 miles. I remember my son Connor was in this town in Sweden, Växjö, Sweden, and I was there a couple of different times, and but he was very fortunate to go there. They have a small town. They've won 88 ATP titles last I knew, and their tennis center, there's a 3-mile lake, and they get there and the courts are a little bit wet. And they go, you guys just run around the lake, and we get back, we'll meet. Connor would say that sometimes they would run around their lake. Lunch isn't here yet. They bring in sandwiches for him. Lunch isn't here. Lunch is a little bit late. Just go run around the lake. When you get back here, the sandwiches will be here. The kids just go, okay. Because it's really nothing, but it becomes a lifestyle. And, we are here in the States. We're definitely a car society. But, I
think the thing with New Year's resolutions, I found people who make too many lists or wait for anything to begin something, don't accomplish a whole lot anyways. It's always short term from what I've seen. And, it's just a resolution. And one of the people you were reading from YouTube, Steve, kind of alluded to it. Start now. And if anything, if you want to accomplish anything, you're not going to wait for a date for anything to occur. I think I get the whole concept of it. Okay, new beginning, new year. But the reality is, if for us in the tennis business especially, somebody said, what do you do this weekend? And I said the same thing I did during the weekday. And, it's kind of like you got to begin and you don't wait. It's got to happen. What Andy said about the why is so, so true. Ultimately, whether it's me quitting Mountain Dew or anything like that people, and it's a shame that it does take for many people catastrophic events to begin that kind of rehab rather than prehab. And that's where I think people don't call on others with wisdom that have gone down the path before them to actually say, hey, what's ahead of me? Steve, you've met Dick Landenberger, and I know you've met Jim Musel. both two members of the club here. One is a legendary senior player. He was always on the ball machine. I think I sent Andy video of him once.
Yeah.
A guy in his 80s. Yeah. But, I'd always ask him, hey, what's coming up in my 40s? What's coming up in my 50s? He's 85 years old now, still going through that same routine every day. But the advice he gave me was so simple. And yet it was just a matter of, am I going to have the self-discipline to follow it? It's not hard to not eat chocolate. It's just hard to have discipline in general. It's chocolate. I could go the rest of my life without a chocolate chip, but I'm going to be tempted for other things. And it just comes down to, discipline. And it's really neat to see people with different types of discipline, but when you see people with complete discipline, where I think that's very rare, where, maybe they eat well, maybe they exercise well, they're always prompt, they're always, just on point, and yet they're at peace with themselves, because sometimes that can be a negative thing when somebody's like that. But yeah, to me, I think that you could scratch New Year's off and just resolution. But
yeah, well, there's certainly psychology to food. Like downstairs today, there's a big container of chocolate fudge, and so Andy and I, we escaped Yvonne and we ate a little junk food while he was visiting, but then just to get back into the routine, say, okay, no, it's like people don't have dessert to start the meal. And, we would, I remember being in charge of a college tennis team for 10 years, a junior college team. And we had, I think of Chrissy Rohrbacher was helping us out. Her daughter, Rachel, is a superstar pickleball player now that we coached for 8 years when she was a little kid. And they had a cheat day. And it was amazing. I was more the director, head coaches running. It was, different than the NCAA level. But there was times where I would be the team on the road and they would go to a restaurant and everyone would say, oh, today's my cheat day. Oh, today's my cheat day. And, so it's like, no, your cheat day, maybe your cheat day could be on Sunday, but everything you need consistency. There's no perfection, but consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's the downfall for a lot of people is they have that perfectionist mentality where if they, don't do it one day, then they go, I blew it. And then they quit, where you got to just let yourself, okay, if you lapse for a day, then just get right back on it the next day.
Who was the two brothers, Stefanki, right? Stefanki, what are their first names? Steve Stefanki and Larry, yeah. So,
Larry, yeah.
Andy Roddick, he lost 15 pounds. And I remember he was just saying, no, you can't, at that level, world-class athlete, world-class tennis is, but, I think people can build up, so if a kid is, this is what they're doing, say in their elementary school days, they get to junior high, are they improving? Let me just throw this out: is that people that are a Super J on the Myers-Briggs, they're so structured. When they want to get things done and they do something that wasn't on the list, they put it on the list and then mark it off. Then you know, like what you just said, Andy, is that's being too much of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
But rolling out of bed, make your bed. It's just like, this is what I have to do every day. And, we are such creatures of habit. You tell people, okay, just stop to think, what sock you put on first. And people, they put on the same sock, the first thing, if you're switching that, or you say, okay, brush your teeth with your opposite hand. It's like, whoa. So we get into such routines. Let me share this story with you. My brother, Matt, I have three other brothers, or I have three brothers, two other brothers, but my brother, Matt, he had a cast of friends that together they would have been a sitcom. It was a movie. So one of his friends, he's a bartender, and so it's a little tougher for him. But he gets, unfortunately, a DWI. So he's got to go to driving school and this and that. And it was his first offense. So, and it's certainly very serious. So everybody was supposed to, keep track of how many drinks they had. And, one person, well, I had one. We go around the room. There's like a dozen people in the room. I didn't have any. One person, I had two. And then, it was his turn. He goes, well, I think you're lying. I had 47. And but I do think that accountability is to have, that reflective learner, reactive thought, reflective thought, just at the end of the day is what did you do? What did you not do? I mean, as coaches, we need to know, well, our players didn't hit any overheads. Our players didn't hit any returns. Wow. You got to do it all every day. Of course, you hear this is love the process. For me, I'd have to ask you guys, but because I spent so many years, just think going to the Orange Bowl, even, when I was first just studying tennis, I'm going to go to the Orange Bowl. But when I grew up, I mean, it was really a tradition. You were home for January 1st, but most tennis players at a high level, the junior tennis players, I remember Sue Barker, who won the French Open. I'm going to guess, have our fact checker, Andres Barbosa, one of the years that Chris Evert didn't play the French. She was playing World Team Tennis that Sue Barker won the French. A good, very, very good tennis player. She's a gal recently retired. She was always center court, master of ceremony. And I believe it was Sue Barker. She said, I haven't been home for Christmas for 7 years. If there's just, I can remember for a long period of time, I would be at the Orange Bowl, and then I would go to Vic Braden's course out in California. And it was, so I would be at Kodo, this is after I worked for him. I do think that there is a newness where families get together, they stop, it's a holiday. And I do think that's a very good time to reflect. And you actually celebrate, it's a new year. But I think that's a problem with really high-level junior tennis players. And the fact also, too, the tennis goes 12 months a year. But I think it is very healthy when families can get together and it does become a holiday, and they definitely think, okay, just be thankful, be grateful for the year that's passed, and then to build upon that for the next year.
Yeah.
January 1. Carl Jung, this comes from him. Looking outside yourself is dreaming. Looking inside yourself is an awakening. That's kind of interesting. So really, when it comes down to New Year's resolutions, is everybody will say, okay, I have the dream. I want to be a great tennis player. I see myself holding up the trophy. Dave, what was the name of the young man that spent time with you? PhD, Bob Neff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was at your place with a German player and a Russian player. And
Mark and Marvin.
Yeah, so he interviews them. And then, you bring like 50 juniors into the room you had on the covered courts. And I remember him saying, because he asked Marvin, what's the one image you have of yourself on the tennis court? And he just said, a running backhand passing shot down the line. And then the other player said, holding up the trophy. And I remember when Bob got everybody in the room, he told the kid that it was outcome oriented. That saw himself holding up the trophy. That he goes, I don't like the way you're thinking. Is that, skill. Then how do you acquire skill? So it's all about time. You have a new year, but I think you have to take inventory for the last year. Like, how did you do?
Yeah.
How did you do? And, Andy was here. I had never heard it put the way you said it, Andy, when you were here last time. I think we've already mentioned it on a podcast or two. The 3 levels: interested, committed, or obsessed. Why don't you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I just heard it online, and it just, hit me. I really liked it, and I've asked a few players now, that I've worked with, like, are you interested? Are you committed? Are you obsessed? And really, most of them couldn't answer if, that they were obsessed. but that's really the greats in most sports or any early activity. They're obsessed with it. And so, there's levels and there's levels. And I really like how that is put. It's a good way to look at it. If you're going to self-reflect or look at it, you go, am I really, really into this? Am I, like you say, Steve, am I living my life to win? And that's when it does come down to every little thing and the details, and because you're gonna get out what you put in. So,
I like to talk to young tennis players about the food chain. Certainly ask them today, and it's not blaming the parents. It's just society. An American junior tennis player, they don't know what it means to brown bag it. Okay, I'm going to go to the tennis courts. I'm packing my own lunch. I've got, 2 bananas and 2 peanut butter sandwiches, and I'm good. I know they have water over there. I'm just good. I can be there all day. Hungry dog hunts best with, but the number of hours that you put in, to practice before practice, practice after practice, and whatever skill set one is trying to perfect, it is the management of time. We met the enemy was us. I love to hand out 3x5 cards. And I know I just talked to Miran Mann before we got online, and he sends players here. He sends players here that it's not mandatory, but if you want to really be in our program, you should go down there for 3 weeks and do this. But in Canada, not that many kids are homeschooling, so they go to regular school and they come into this facility and they got a 2-hour block of training, and that's it. And I tell the juniors, well, I know that facility well. I know, David, you were there with me one time. So you come off court 19 and 20. Do you go to the left and go charge a muffin to your parents' account, or do you go to the right and go to those empty squash courts? But I like to hand out the 3x5 card. It's a little bit easier to do when you have kids for the whole day. We have these immersion days. You're with us all day. And you hand out a 3x5 card, say, okay, tell us why you're a tennis animal. The food chain, hungry dog hunts best. And another thing to do is flip the card over, say, no one's going to see this, but for right now, write your bio. Write 3 or 4 sentences about yourself. And if they're with us, tennis is a big part of their life. And we get into her. It's a milestone for a young junior tennis player and beyond, a college player. Is that everybody should be able to teach. So let's talk a little bit more about juniors. I'll throw that out first. Is that if you were to take a survey and had 100 junior tennis players, very doubtful that any one of them is going to write down, I want to improve my ability to teach tennis. Why don't you guys comment on that comment?
Yeah, and in their minds, teaching and playing are different things. And they're like, well, I want to be a player, so why do I have to learn to teach? And we hit them with the line with you got to be first and foremost your own coach. And for some players that clicks, some it doesn't. But you need to learn. Peer teaching doubles the learning. If you know the information you can teach, when you teach it to somebody in any situation, you reinforce it in your own mind so much more.
It's funny because, after speaking to you a little bit, Siebert, or communicating with you, I wrote down 10 thoughts on how a parent, a coach, or a player could, make some commitments to bettering themselves. And that was, on the players, that was number 5. And mentor, hit, or teach a younger player. I always tell the kids on our facility that there's somebody there in the programs. We talk about how the dominant group doesn't know the subgroup, but there's somebody that thinks you're Roger Federer or that thinks you're Serena Williams, depending on your gender, and they, seldom are people looking downward. And I've always kind of tried to build the facility here on one arm up, one arm down. So, you have the humility to allow yourself to be pulled up by somebody, but at the same time, you're always, one arm is down and you're always trying to grab somebody and pull them up with you. And to me, it's not about just the information that one gains from teaching another person, but it's a mentality, developing more altruistic behavior to, make the tennis site that they're in a little bit better place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I needed another bite of pizza. That's why I paused.
What's on the pizza? Double cheese?
No, I didn't eat pizza. Unfortunately,
I'm just kidding.
But if you did, what would you have?
Pepperoni and jalapeno.
Jalapeno, nice.
Yeah.
That's the Texan in you.
Yep.
I think there should be a rule that you cannot have pineapple on pizza. Who came up with
Oh,
that?
man.
I could never do it. Pepperoni and jalapeno. That's it.
Pineapple's amazing.
Andy, you'd like eating pizza with my wife. She thinks the same.
Good for digestion as well.
When Dave and I were together studying tennis in an academic setting, it was just a different time. There's a young gal with us. She's been here, 4 or 5 times now. She's 12 and under and rebuilt her game. And we have 2 classrooms at the tennis house, makeshift living rooms, classrooms, and rooms that are convertible, 2 big TVs. It's amazing. She's always watching these interesting tennis clips. Like today, I'm having lunch. I'll watch this. And it was, how good was Stefan Edberg? It's just amazing. Just amazing, to watch him play and go through his singles, his doubles. And the good news is that she's watching tennis. But I would prefer if she were if I would say, okay, Howard Schnellenberger. And we shouldn't have 100 mind vitamins, but if we just had, say, 10, Dave, you have a list or the 10 commandments, just give me. So I wrote down 3. One is Howard Schnellenberger's, the late Howard Schnellenberger, football coach. Everybody knows it if they spend any time, and I know we have quite a few people listen to every podcast. The next time you have bacon and eggs for breakfast, remember the chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. And, we've had that on T-shirts and, the front and the back and, then ask kids, what does that mean? And, I think that one thing about go deeper, I mean, do you at least have the understanding of that mind vitamin? And, why do we call it a mind vitamin? But it's kind of just a fleeting thought. And then they're on in their own world because now, a kid has a telephone. We have these, large TVs and, kids for the most part, unless if there's not a meal, they're fine just to go to their room because they have a phone, an iPad, and a computer, and they can watch whatever they want. So they're really not, taking it up a level. Nick Saban, Yvonne, maybe if I get you going on this one, choices, you have that one? Choices are choices.
Yeah, choices are just an illusion. If you want to be, I think it's great. There are no choices.
If you want to be good, there's no choices. And I do think you could have. Annie and I had more than 2 chocolate chip cookies over that box, but that's okay. But have your own set of rules. We're always saying, obey, not obey the coach, but obey the laws of physics and striking a tennis ball, but obey your own goals. Obey your own timetable.
An interesting thought is, I think there are 2 levels. One level is where we have juniors in the classroom and, we sit them down and one thought that rings true, I think, because I see, their eyes kind of widen when we say things like, if you do what everybody else does, you'll be just like everybody else. And it's like, just framing things in a certain perspective. But at some point, and I don't know his name, I should. He was considered the world's fittest man.
Colombo?
No, it was a CrossFit gentleman, Matt Fraser. Matt Fraser,
yeah.
And he was in an interview, and they asked him, how were you the world's fittest man for, whatever was it, 6 years or whatever the time frame was. And he said, well, at some point, everybody works as hard as you in the gym. Everybody wants it as bad as you. Everybody's willing to put in all the hours that they can. Then he says what differentiates people from being at the top is what they actually do when they're not training, when they're not thinking about their sport. And he said that comes down to recovery, to exercise, to nutrition. And he goes as far as to say relationships and, qualities of human morals, just how stressed your mind is at the time. It might affect your training and such. So, different levels. One level is, okay, are you trying to stand out from the pack? And then at another level where now you're some elite group where everybody wants to stand out from the pack. Okay, what can you do even more? And that's really where it comes down to what you do outside of the game and outside of the passion that you have is how you live your life to win.
It's well said. Thank you. With Columbo, Andy, you would remember this, is that I think it was Frank Columbo, strongest man in the world, and Vic, comedian, he would have that delay. You go, yes, he runs a 100-yard dash in 14 seconds. And Vic would wait, and somebody raised his hand and goes, that's not very fast. He goes, yes, but he's carrying a refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. With, I like the line, you can't be anybody else. Everybody else is taken. Vandermeer, there's a player, Jeff Borowiak, who's a great piano player years ago. And one time he was in the third round of the U.S. Open, and he was listening to music, and he looked up at the umpire and he goes, I'm done. He was just this Jeff Borowiak, but you want to get to the point where, certainly you look up to the top players. There's a famous story about Maria Sharapova. Martina Hingis was visiting Bollettieri's, and Sharapova, all the kids wanted their photo taken and autographs, and Sharapova waited and she said, I'd like to know when you're going to retire. And Hingis looked at her and said, why are you asking that? She goes, because I want to play you. It's like, here's another one. If I really believe this, if I say it's a kid that's studying the GreatBase material, and I say, give me the Virginia Wade quote. I mean, if they're really into it, they're obsessed, as you would say, Andy. I guess that's a pearl that you've added to your repertoire. Is winning tennis doesn't lead to beautiful tennis, but beautiful tennis leads to winning tennis. I mean, the parents need to understand that. And, winning takes care of itself. Winning is a byproduct of skills. With, the Mia Hamm story, you guys familiar with that? What Yvonne just said, that's where, the stories are all the same. I mean, it's like, what did Wayne Gretzky do? What did Kobe Bryant do? I mean, what did Larry Bird do? It's all these greats from the past to the greats of today. The story with Mia Hamm, North Carolina, is at practice, and the coach, very quickly, he had two ways home. The longer way was more scenic, the short way, and most of the time he took the short way. But one day he said, okay, I have a little more time. We take the scenic drive. And after practice, Mia Hamm was at a neighboring school, high school, not the University of North Carolina. And she's practicing. And he stopped and watched, and he didn't say anything to her for a couple of days. And then he asked her, why do you practice on your own? Why don't you stay here and practice? And she said, I don't want to take confidence away from my teammates. They can't work as hard as I can. So I don't want to do it in front of them. I mean, that's like the ultimate team player. And that's where Daniel Coyle certainly added to it. But the comment where champions are made when no one's watching. But then Daniel Coyle, with his flair for the written word, how's it go? They're bent over at the waist. They're dripping in sweat. They're gasping for air. I'm always telling people, program plus. I think what you think we should do, Yvonne, why don't you get a copy of the Habit poem? The Habit is, for at one point, I think, Andy, you were working with me, that we had kids memorize that. We could go through that. And that, we fade away from that. At one time, I think there's a copy right over here, Yvonne.
Want me to go get it?
Yeah, that'd be great. With, thanks. At one time, the pledge, not the Pledge of Allegiance, not the pledge to the flag, but at Agassiz private school, that's where we just go away from things. At one time, we would review or read that pledge. Everybody's getting a water break, and Now you have to be really careful with junior tennis players, especially the older ones. During a water break, they go right to their phone. And the quality of life is when you're not electronically hooked up. What else with you guys? What else is on your list, Dave? I'll read this habit poem, or Yvonne can read it eventually. Go ahead.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Well, I divided into the three categories. I'll just run through the players. Number 1, be early, stay late. Number 2, never have a coach have to tell you to move. Number 3, time your mile, then run a mile daily for the entire year and check it each month. Number 4, develop a concise 10-minute off-court technical routine. Number 5, as I mentioned, mentor or hidden teach a younger player. Number 6, say thank you daily to your parents, teachers, coaches, etc. Number 7, write every tournament director a thank you note, handwritten. Number 8, outwork everyone around you. And then 9 and 10 were just more, we've already mentioned one, make your bed. And then the last one was contribute to your house without allowance. Be a part of the productivity around managing a household. Because everything else to me, it doesn't matter unless you don't have the character in line. And it'll be short term. And then that's really what we try to do as teachers and coaches. I mean, we try to get people accountable. We try to get them aware. We try to get them ahead of the curve as far as, things that we know are coming down the pipeline for them. And if the details of these things kind of aren't in place in their own lives, it's going to be just really, really difficult to get them to make any kind of significant adjustments in their game tactically, technically, mentally. And, to Andy's point, I feel that I saw that online as well, Andy, and I really liked it. But I think the confusion with people is they really don't know when they're committed or obsessed. They think I believe there's a lot that feel they lean and the needle goes towards the obsessed. But the reality is they're probably wavering somewhere in between, interested and committed. And it's just because tennis kids are around tennis kids, and exposure to other athletes in other sports is so important, so that they can have a real vantage point of what becoming the best athlete you can become is, and seldom is that going to be learned exclusively from the tennis culture without, really, really driven coaching. I mean, as Steve has said before about the powerful, consistent coaching can get you there, but I still think they need exposure to other realms. And I think coaches do too. But yeah, that's kind of what I wrote down from a player perspective.
No, that's so well done. Now, let me ask you, read number 1 again.
Be early, stay late.
Yeah. So my trip to New York City, so I'm taken to a place for breakfast called The Smith. And every employee is wearing a shirt on the back of it says, open early, close late. T-shirts are great, but then, people really have to take it to heart. But with what you just read, those 10, this is how it should work with coaches. Now, we have to be clever because people are busy, especially, I think, at college students. But to make an assignment, so Dave, you've got a staff, 20, 25 people. And so it's just one task a week. And then you have to keep a report card for that. Did the person do that task? So if someone were to take this podcast and say, Dave Anderson said at this minute mark, he gave a list of 10. So they don't have to listen to the whole podcast. They're just told, okay, where to find the podcast, where it is. So say 1 hour and 10 minutes. And then what I want you to do is type out those 10, and then they have to send it as an email. Oh, you could say, they could handwrite it. We want people to handwrite it and type it. So, because we get a lot of people just take a snapshot. They'll was, okay, send your notes, and they write down their notes and they send a snapshot. Just find an easier way to do it. But that's the type of thing that has to be done to say, okay, because really, we have over 15 years of content, daily content on Facebook, GreatBase Tennis. And, today there's an article on, the philosophy of Norwegian sports. And I've told parents so many times, if you're not going to that Facebook post every day, you're just part-time in a program. If you want to be full-timer. And I said, okay, your kid has school, but on the weekend, you're going to find time and say, okay, we can do this very quickly, even if they just take some bullet points from it. But it's that line I use often is that I spend my life saying the right things to the wrong people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because really, in the end, people, they don't do what they're told. I was talking to Richard Hernandez today. It's great. He's in London, and he wanted to just go hang out with somebody who uses a GreatBase curriculum. And, Richard is a very powerful speaker. He said, Dave, I think you guys started together at the same time, is that people just don't do what they're told. But the whole thing with New Year's resolutions is that you got to tell yourself. And, I try to paint the picture. We work with so many kids. Jimmy Rogers said it well, college tennis is a goal, and pro tennis is a dream. And 3 out of 100, less than 3%, will play college tennis. And I paint that picture where, okay, it's going to be parents' weekend. Your parents are showing up, and you're sitting in the bleachers next to your parents. One of my brothers, back in the day when it wasn't fair for Americans, he was on a college hockey team, predominantly Canadian, and he didn't dress. And I remember one time watching an NCAA basketball final, and one of these kids I was watching, he made fun of some of the guys who were on the bench. I said, do you know how good you have to be on the bench of an NCAA championship team? Just no clue. I mean, people hear that comment, no clue. That means you can't find it. And it's right under your nose. It's right in front of your face. Parents, you couldn't, how's it go? You couldn't tell a gift horse if you were looking it in the mouth. I mean, are you going about this as a thoroughbred? Or it's not really fair to donkeys, because donkeys have all sorts of positives. They're fearless. They're smart. They're stubborn. They got all sorts of things going for them. Stubborn in the right way. Another thing is the needle. And my brother, who was in pro sports for a long time, he used to just say, there's just a needle where you can measure desire. From the book Positive Coaching, desire is much more important than talent. Dedication is much more important than talent. Discipline is much more important than talent. Let's test the young one here, Tim Tebow. What did Tim Tebow, and this is an amazing story, but what was his quote? Had it on his refrigerator from the 6th grade. Talent does work hard.
Yeah, talent. Hard work beats talent until talent decides to work hard.
With Tim Tebow, I believe he won 2 NCAA championships. He did play for Denver and was in a playoff, and so it's not like he didn't make it in the pros. He was on the NFL field. He won playoff games, or a game. I mean, so a superstar. But they used it the way he played in college. It wasn't a pro style offense. And with Tebow, I think of Neil Anderson. Andy Brandy sent Neil Anderson to work with us. He was the same backfield with Walter Payton. So now Andy told me before he passed away, this is many, many years ago, I said, tell me about Neil Anderson. That's one thing with life is that, it's like so many experiences to be a reflective thinker, reflective learner. So he comes and he does our 25-hour course, gets filmed. And he came back once a month, and he went 3 times, and he went through the course 3 times. So he comes back the 3rd time, and he looked at me and he smiled. He goes, your system's not really my system, but what we put together is a system of systems. He looks at me and he goes, this guy was a standout at the University of Florida, plays in the backfield for the Bears 8 years, I believe it was. He says, your system's not working. I just started smiling. I go, I know it's not going to work. And I know why. And the answer is it's too much work. But it's, really the GreatBase curriculum, if people have an in-depth, and that's where, people are insiders to what we do, even to elite, tennis experts, so-called tennis minds, they don't know the nuts and bolts. They don't know the tennis math. Whatever you do, it's just, you have to turn the work into fun. Like, I love doing this. Mm-hmm. That old thing, pain of regret, pain of discipline. And yeah, the new year comes around and it's like, okay, I got to be better. Just, can I be better? Kind of the Jim Verdict thing. Can I be 1% better than myself? But I had a parent, and we've shared this many times on the podcast, but people can certainly hear it again, and this gentleman, highly educated, you've learned so much from parents. I can say I also learned what the do's and don'ts, what not to do. But you're a hard worker. When you finish one task, it's like, what do I need to do next? You're just on the go. And people need to have a little bit of downtime, but it's really the loser blues. It's amazing how, the people that, for 15 years, I worked at a facility in Tampa. But 10 of the years we ran this tennis team, and 3 girls, we would say I remember they were not the loser blues. We had these huge backboards, a huge classroom. I know, David, you were there. Andy, you were there, and said, this is what you need to do. Get here 15 minutes early. And it wasn't a matter of stretch on your own, whatever it is that hit the backboard for 5 minutes, skip rope for 5 minutes, and then just serve against the backboard. So you don't have to pick the ball up. Just serve, catch, serve, catch, serve, catch. So you're hitting forehand, backhand, short compact swings. And, but we had this huge lobby, huge classroom, and I just walked by people. Loser blues. How's it going? Loser blues. You got the loser blues. And I mean, I had to go get organized, and, we had a fairly large program, and, but yeah, they're just singing the loser blues. And I can remember a young guy, Gareth Doran. It was just a bad patch. I had a lot to do with the Jesuit high school tennis team, and one of my sons went to Jesuit, and he was on the team. And I would never forget Gareth Doran, a great line. He said to my oldest son, he said, you know what my dad would say about your tennis team? Be friendly, but don't be their friends. Another thing, I remember Nathan Zeter. He's way up the ladder with New Balance. You see Coco Gauff in the booth. You see Evan Zeter. And Evan was he transformed his game. He changed his game with us. And he was on the Illinois tennis team. So, but with Evan, his older brother, Nathan, told him one time, I remember just saying, you got to get new friends. You can judge people by, you want to get along with everybody. But Vic Braden used to always say that is, don't lower your standards. This is what you got to do, and just do it, and don't lower your standards. But I think most people, like I always talk about Martin St. Louis, is he says it's easy to be the hardest worker, but do people really know what hard work is? Have they seen a hard worker? And a lot of times they have, their parents. I think that parents, especially even grandparents, they get sounded out if they do start to talk to their kids about how difficult it was for them. In one sense today, it is more difficult. When I started teaching at Tyler Junior College, 1981, and I was there throughout the 80s. So when I started, the faculty was 80% full-time faculty. And then 10 years later, it was 20%, meaning that they were adjunct professors, is that they weren't getting the benefits. Years ago in the States, it was pretty much, okay, you're going to get a job for 30 years. You're going to have a mortgage for 30 years, and then you're going to have a pension. And we had a very successful, very large middle class. And, like now for a young person to buy a house, it's like, whoa. What else on New Year's resolutions? Anything, anybody?
I just had a couple of things, things that were said. One, that people just don't do what you ask them to do. Reminds me of a line Vic used to say when we coaches see a player do exactly what we ask them to do, we stare. But it doesn't happen all that often. But another thought I have is just accountability partners, when you're saying, kids don't do the routines or do things. And just made me think of the group of like Agassi and Courier and Wheaton, those guys, where they were all kind of passionate, you could say obsessed, maybe, at least committed, where they were pushing each other in a competitive way. So, if you can get around people that are also committed or have an accountability partner, like, hey, let's do this together. Those kind of groups usually tend to do pretty well. But if you're someone out there that's struggling with that, what's the line? You can't soar with the eagles if you're hanging around with turkeys.
Right.
So, who you're hanging around with is big. The kind of influence they're going to have, just the mindset of people. So, you got to be around people that want similar things, have similar goals.
Yeah, you talk about groups. I think of the Aussies back in the 50s and 60s. They used to travel so far away. And if you read about Harry Hopman, we actually have a podcast, if you want to go back and listen to it, is when money came into tennis, and money can be the root of all evil, but the drive to wear the green and gold to play for Australia. And, there was certainly the downside of it, but, the Aussies, it was very difficult for them to go back home. The Swedes, on the men's side, back in the 80s, was it 6 out of 10 guys in the top 10? But like with Davis Cup, I think it was 84 where Arthur Ashe took Jimmy Connors. I think would have been Fleming, maybe Seguso and Flack. But anyway, it was definitely Connors and McEnroe, and they lost to the Swedes. Of course, it was in Stockholm and on clay, or in Sweden on clay. And Arthur's just trying to get those two guys to have dinner together. And the Swedes, all of them showed up. They didn't know whether they're going to play or not. And the U.S. Davis Cup, and we talked about it a little bit, where Austin Krajicek and Rajiv Ram, they didn't get the nod, but they were there. They were there supporting the team, and they, certainly had to go out and keep their chin up. And the Spaniards also, that would be a group in recent times. With I think of my son Connor. Biggest word in the dictionary, if he could have taken the Ty Tucker show on the road with him, he would have just, in my opinion, just continued to do so much better as a tennis player. What teams do together everyone accomplishes more. Here's one thought I have for the person who's trying to, New Year's resolution, he's trying to give up swearing, drinking, and smoking. And then he lets everybody know he's not doing too well with his New Year's resolutions because he says, damn it, I left my cigarettes at the bar. Yeah, Happy New Year. We could end up with a habit poem. Anything else? So before we read this habit poem, I think that'd be a good way.
Well, the only thing I had down really at the very beginning, I just jotted down, for the self-reflection, you've got to kind of know yourself, have an honest look at what you need to improve or want to improve. And then as far as tennis goes, just those 4 areas of hit, run, compete, and recover is just try to start with some small habits. The hitting, it could be, okay, I'm going to do this routine. Running, it could be, okay, I'm going to try to do this physical fitness routine. Competing, what areas can you do there, whether it's read a book or, work on your mindset. And then the recovery, like talking about Matt Frazier, the strongest man. I remember watching a documentary on him, and on his recovery days, so-called recovery days, you'd basically watch old episodes of Seinfeld and just foam roll the whole time, like hours upon hours. He'd just be foam rolling and watching Seinfeld. But I think that's an easy way for tennis players, if you could hit each one of those areas and make some small goals and turn those into habits. And then, like Dave said, it all comes down to your character, to whether you're going to be able to follow through on those habits, on those goals.
The bloody the bloody effing principle. Are you going to hit the floor or are you going to hit the couch? Going to be a couch potato,
Right.
So players can. We tell people this is how you should watch tennis on TV. When you have kids do leg lifts, legs together, 6 inches off the ground. I'm telling you, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, they can't do it. And times have changed. Times have changed with in just looking online. There's like 10 commandments that obviously has a religious overtone to it. But I always tease Andy, brought up as a good Mormon boy. I always use my go-to joke is never take one Mormon fishing with you because they'll drink all your beer. But you take two, you're okay. But actually, that whole thing with family values is the Mormons. I mean, do they use electric shock? But the whole thing has to start so early, to really have discipline. So if people don't have it, I think the parents have to realize that, well, I was just too lenient and now my kid is 12 but I think also too is that attitude of the household. I mean, what are the principles? How is this going to get it done? I mean, really in the end, if you haven't seen it done, you haven't seen it done, and if you haven't taken it in. So most people they're totally lost. In our world of teaching tennis, they're totally lost in bringing up a tennis player. Totally lost. You want to do your review or the habit poem first? What do you want to do?
Let's end it with the habit poem. I got a few notes here, just things that caught my mind and decided to jot down for a second run through. Here we go. Don't put the pro in procrastination. Start small and build it up. What's coming up in my 40s and in my 50s? Discipline equals freedom. You can't be anybody else. Everybody else is already taken. Be early, stay late. Never have a coach tell you to move your feet. That's great. Thank your parents and coaches daily. Outwork everybody around you. A hard worker is somebody that finishes one task, and then turns around and asks, what do I have to do next? Having accountability partners. And you can't soar like an eagle if you're hanging around with turkeys.
Yeah. Andy, how do you pronounce Petrus Kukimore?
It's just Cookie More.
Yeah, we've got a girl here from we have a girl from South Africa. She could pronounce it properly. I remember being with him one time. Yeah, so you met her. So great memory. So I remember being with Petrus, and he told the gentleman 3 times, and the guy just said, "It's Peter. Glad to meet you, Peter." But Ernie and Pam Clore, hats off to them. I think of I don't know their 2 daughters, but their 2 sons obviously were brought up as athletes. Small town, rural Western Carolina, became tennis players. And so Peaches' daughter, Gabriella, she's recited the habit poem. And I remember Ernie just saying, she's going to be a CEO. She might not be a big time tennis player, but she's going to run a company. But here's the habit poem. And I think, there's different versions of it, but this should be on refrigerators. The habit poem. New Year's resolutions. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I'll push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might as well turn over to me, and I will do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of great people, and alas, of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though. I work with the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a person. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? I Am Habit. The
Well done, Smith. That prep school education of yours.
Yeah, the preppy. Actually,
And your high performance.
Yeah. With Ed Weiss.
Double whammy.
Ed Weiss, who is an amazing man. He went to, I'm trying to think, Division III school. They won the national championship. Should rattle it off. I'm drawing a blank. But then he went to Stanford Law, and he practiced law forever. Now he's retired. He wrote this book. It's on our website finally. Well, we went on the Tennis Teaching Master, exactly what the title is.
Yeah.
And his word for myelin, he goes, yeah, myelin is just the new word for habit. And the new year, you want to get better at something? Teaching tennis. I like how Dave has said many times in this podcast is, if you're only teaching where you're getting paid for it, you're just constantly teaching. Really, it's, you got to get away and get a break. But we recently interviewed Jeff Moore, and it was Darryl Royal. I have to go back. It was a great interview, great book. People listen to that should go back to it. And it's called Bump In Coaching. That it's an opportunity. It's a light bulb moment. That's where I'm sure, Dave, that a lot of your coaches they can't go across the street and go to the snack bar and coach.
No, it's a mindset 24/7. No different than anything else. When you're trying to be good at something, great at something, you never really shut it down.
2025. Anybody else?
Nothing changes till something changes. That's my last word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Change.
Yeah, it won't change unless you do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many. Anyway, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You want to sing, Andy? You got a little talent.
Not today, but maybe some other time.
Not sometime. Okay. Happy New Year.
But Happy New Year.
But no, thanks for your time. Thanks for contributing, guys. Thanks everyone for listening. And GreatBase Tennis will try to help out more in 2025.
All right, guys.
Go.
Yeah. Thanks,
good luck.
Guys. All right. Good night.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
What does Scotty Perlman say? Smitty. It's a new day. It's a new opportunity to excel. But you got to break it down. The 1 minute manager, you got to break it down. And it's just 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I love that expression. I have a book. It's not tied in with tennis, but 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. What we were saying the other day, I read this, I said we should be saying this. 9 minutes and 9 minutes, 18 minutes a day. Do you remember the ad on that?
Yes. Unfortunately, the person who said it slips my mind, but it goes 18 minutes a day for a whole year is 100 hours a year, which makes you better than, I think the percent was 97% of people in the world at that skill.
Yeah, we tell people, we put up I thought today, a fun Instagram post. We show a girl who's rebuilt her game. We have the we just showed the post. We'll wrap it up here. And obviously it looks very mechanical. It's slow. It's deliberate. It's on balance. Just executing 8 basic shots, essential shots. And then I said, well, we have to thank our critics. To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. So I said, well, number one is that for our critics, what's their track record developing players? I'm talking about developing players, not recruiting players, just developing young kids. You start them as beginners and, where do they go from there? And so I said, well, one is track record. Andy Fitzell, as be our listener, a longtime associate. He said, well, I'd like to see their students hit the ball. And then with Richard Hernandez, his name came up today, longtime associate, he says, shut up. I just love the way, shut up. As he says it just as a manner of speech. I one time was at his facility many years. He's not there now, but he was there 30 years, 30 plus. And there was a woman at a meeting with Richard. And she saw me and I was off the court. And she said, Dave, I said, could you join me with the meeting? I need to talk to Richard. I said, sure. And I said, what's the meeting about? She said, well, she doesn't think, or my son, he doesn't think that Richard likes him. I said, why is that? Because he's always telling him to shut up. So we go into the meeting and this woman says, well, my son doesn't think you like him. Richard looked right at her and said, he had no idea what she had said previously. He looked right at her and said, shut up. I know it's not nice to tell people to shut up. But, people need to tell themselves that inner voice. I mean, it's amazing that no one in one's life will ever hear their inner voice, only themselves. But anyway, Yvonne, thanks for all your help. Happy New Year, 2025. Wave goodbye to the camera. Another podcast in the books. Adios, amigos.
Adios.